The reason you feel constantly outmaneuvered isn't a lack of knowledge. It's the inability to apply what you already know with cold precision. Most struggles don't come from ignorance. They come from unmanaged insight. You might think being smart is about having answers, winning debates, or displaying your intellect. But the real world doesn't reward raw information. It rewards calculated restraint. It rewards perfectly timed silence. It rewards the intelligence that knows when to hold back. And almost no one develops this. Observe the pattern. People justify themselves endlessly. They respond too quickly. They offer trust before it's earned. They get emotionally invested when detachment would shield them. They feel uncertain when they should stand firm and bold when caution is warranted. Then, they're surprised when they're overlooked, exploited, or quietly sidelined. They blame misfortune. They cry betrayal. They point to toxic people. But the truth is simpler. It's a deficit of strategic sharpness, a failure to grasp how others observe, probe, and seize advantage when you give them an opening. Then, there's a different kind of individual. You might not spot them immediately. They aren't rushing to fill silence. Their thoughts aren't freely available. Their reactions aren't predictable. And because of this subtle shift, everyone around them starts to behave differently. People become more careful. They volunteer more information. They hesitate to push boundaries. These individuals don't command the room with noise, yet they steer the outcome. They don't chase validation, yet it flows to them. Their pace seems measured, but their progress is vast. This isn't charisma. This is disciplined intellect, a keen, contained, and formidable variety. It's the mind that understands when words are a liability, when explanations are a trap, and when a non-reaction is the most powerful move. It knows people watch far more intently than they listen, and they test you more than they'll ever admit. It recognizes that once you become completely legible, your intelligence turns into a script. They can anticipate predictability is vulnerability. It sees that emotional ties create pressure points, and pressure points are always targeted. This was understood long ago. It wasn't written as a guide for how people ought to be, but as a map of how they truly operate. Those who endure and ascend aren't the most vocal, the nicest, or the most emotionally driven. They are the most psychologically disciplined. They master their own impulses first, and that makes them incredibly difficult to influence or control. This formidable intellect isn't about maneuvering others. It's about being impossible to maneuver. It's about constructing a psyche that can't be rushed, guilted, or backed into an emotional corner. A mind that stays razor-sharp under duress. A mind that spots the snare long before it's sprung. If you've ever felt underestimated, taken for granted, or only taken seriously after you withdrew, this is the core reason. You are operating with honesty in an arena that rewards strategic calculation. In this video, I'm detailing 7 core principles that will hone your intellect and fortify your mindset. These aren't comforting ideas. They won't flatter you, but they are ruthlessly effective. And once you internalize them, your perspective will shift permanently. Before we start, I want you to write this in the comments. My mind is a controlled instrument. Principle 1. Master strategic opacity. Never let anyone fully decipher your stance. The instant someone completely grasps your position, your desires, or your reasoning, they gain the power to adjust their approach against you. Clarity feels virtuous, but in practice, clarity often equals exposure. Exposure creates leverage, and leverage is rarely wielded for your benefit. Most individuals reveal themselves without thought. They explain choices unprompted. They clarify motives to ease anxiety. They defend their silence, their decisions, even their own limits. They believe being understood is a shield. It's actually a target. Once your internal logic is transparent, you become predictable. And once you're predictable, you are manageable. A strategically sharp mind operates differently. It doesn't resort to lies or drama. It relies on absence, on saying less than anticipated, on disclosing only what is essential, creating a vacuum where others feel compelled to speak into the silence. This isn't about playing petty games. It's about safeguarding your position. Every superfluous word you offer is data for someone else. Every justification hands over context, and context is control. When people can't categorize you, something fundamental changes. They start to second guess. They project their own narratives onto you. While they are speculating, you are observing. While they are emotionally reacting, you are calmly calculating. This imbalance quietly transfers authority without any direct confrontation. The deeper insight isn't about deception with falsehoods. Often, it's about disciplined withholding. Simply not revealing is sufficient. Silence, when intentional, carries more weight than any persuasive speech. This principle also insulates you from emotional coercion. Manipulation depends on visibility. Guilt works only if your doubt is apparent. Shame works if your attachments are clear. Urgency works if your desire is obvious. When your internal landscape is unreadable, these tactics crumble. There's nothing to grasp, nothing to tug on, nothing to threaten. People respect what they cannot easily access. They are wary of what they cannot forecast. They tread carefully around what doesn't respond on demand. This isn't dominance through aggression. It's authority cultivated through uncertainty, quiet, controlled, and deeply unsettling to those who rely on overt influence. Resisting the urge to explain will feel unnatural initially. Your instincts will scream to clarify, to correct, to defend. That impulse is an emotional reflex, not strategic thought. Every time you override it, you strengthen your discipline. Every time you choose quiet over justification, you retain full ownership of your stance. The effects multiply over time. People cease their probing. They stop demanding immediate answers. They become cautious in your presence, without understanding why. You are no longer an open book, easy to pressure or simple to corner. Not because you've become threatening, but because you've become contained. This principle doesn't render you cold. It makes you impervious to manipulation. It doesn't make you dishonest. It makes you discerning. You still speak when it's crucial. You still act when it's necessary. But nothing leaks out by accident. Nothing is offered merely to gain approval. Formidable intellect begins here. Before any grand strategy, before any play for influence, there must be opacity. If others can't see your full shape, they cannot strike with accuracy. They swing at phantoms, while you remain untouched. Lock this thought in place. Now put this in the comments. I disclose nothing prematurely. Principle 2. Command the narrative. The common belief is that transparency, being open, available, and candid, builds trust and respect. In reality, it frequently achieves the opposite. The more you reveal, the more material others have to predict, manipulate, and ultimately use against you. Strategic sharpness understands that discretion is strength and selective ambiguity is armor. The law of inverse visibility states that controlled disclosure is power. Information is your currency. Like any valuable resource, it must be spent with clear intent. Don't distribute it freely. Once given, it cannot be retrieved. Every fact you share, every motive you unveil, every vulnerability you expose is a data point for someone else's calculus. Conversely, withholding selectively forces them to wonder, to guess, and in that gap of uncertainty, they lose their footing. They chase mirages, while you maintain perfect clarity. This principle isn't about fabrication. It's about being the sole author of your own story. You have no obligation to explain yourself at every junction. You are not required to justify your moves, defend your plans, or lay bare your calculations. Instead, you reveal in layers intentionally, strategically, and only when it serves a definitive purpose. By governing what others can perceive, you shape their assumptions and direct their expectations without uttering a single word. Look at the people around you. Notice who overshares, who constantly justifies, who spills details to seek validation. These individuals are movable, influenceable, and easily undermined. They are open manuscripts, and everyone else holds a pen. Now consider the person who speaks with economy, who answers questions without excess, whose narrative has deliberate gaps. That person commands a different kind of attention. That person is intentionally unpredictable. That person operates from a place of quiet authority, because no one knows what comes next. Practically, this transforms how you handle exchanges. In a negotiation, Never reveal your minimum acceptable terms too early. When building alliances, never display all your capabilities at once. When facing opposition, never show your full hand before the critical moment. Timing and restraint. Convert private knowledge into undeniable leverage. People may believe they understand you, but beliefs are weaker than facts, and they always carry risk. You learn to operate in the space between their perception and your reality, and in that space, you find true control. To cement this habit, place this in the comments.I. Govern what is seen. Speak only when necessary. Reveal only when it is useful. Let silence work as a tool of curiosity. By doing so, you stop reacting to external pressures and expectations. You begin to shape the battlefield long before the conflict starts. Mastering this builds a dual state of confidence and invisibility. You are present without being drained by constant scrutiny. You are influential without needing to rationalize every step. You move like a silhouette present, but impossible to read clearly. And in that illegibility, you become untouchable. Your rivals, spectators, and even allies must contend with the unknown. This grants you the space to act decisively, while others hesitate, unsure of your true intentions or limits. Every interaction becomes a demonstration of subtle command. The less people know, the more intently they listen. The less they can predict, the more they react to your cues. Your influence expands silently, almost imperceptibly, until its weight is undeniable. Transparency might feel safe, but selective opacity makes you formidable. As we conclude this point, remember, control over information is control over power. Guard your core. Disclose only on your terms. Let others speculate, and let them expend their energy trying to uncover what you already know intimately. Your intellect becomes an invisible, yet overwhelming, force. Principle 3. Deploy analytical empathy. A common mistake is to see empathy as mere kindness or emotional agreement. It's thought to be about sharing someone's feelings or endorsing their view. Strategic sharpness revolutionizes this concept. Empathy, when used analytically, becomes a tool for precise navigation and influence. It isn't about being soft or agreeable. It's about reading individuals with the clarity of a blueprint, understanding their drives, fears, and wants, so you can move effectively and without obstruction. Analytical empathy is the capacity to see past words and detect the machinery of behavior. Every person functions within a framework built from experience, insecurity, and ambition. If you approach situations solely from your own vantage point, you remain blind to the hidden levers that actually determine results. The ruthlessly sharp individual interrogates the why behind actions, not just the what. They know a harsh remark, a boast, or a passive-aggressive gesture is never random. It is a signal, a glimpse into underlying needs, priorities, and weaknesses. Observing these signals grants an insight that others miss. And insight is the bedrock of power. A timeless observer noted that people judge more by appearance than by substance. Everyone sees what you seem to be. Precious few discern what you are. This is the heart of analytical empathy. Comprehending the internal world of others allows you to navigate social dynamics without being pulled under by their currents. You learn to respond in ways that align with their internal logic while steadfastly advancing your own purpose. In application, this principle is used constantly. When someone resists your proposal, you don't react with irritation. Instead, you diagnose the root cause: fear, pride, insecurity. Address that, not the surface-level objection. When negotiating, you frame your terms to resonate with the other party's core motivations, not your own assumptions. When conflict emerges, you avoid emotional entanglement. You map the incentives and pressures, guiding the behavior and leverage that knowledge with precision. This doesn't make you petty or manipulative. It makes you efficient. You conserve energy, reduce friction, and engineer outcomes with minimal waste. Analytical empathy also separates understanding from endorsement. You can fully comprehend why someone acts destructively without accepting it. You can recognize the forces driving betrayal, arrogance, or obstruction without becoming their victim. This awareness transmutes annoyance into analysis, distraction into foresight, and confrontation into a strategic opportunity. It is the intelligence of seeing the hidden gears while everyone else stares at the spinning wheels. To reinforce this, put this in the comments. I analyze before I engage. Repeat it internally when tension arises. Notice the subtle patterns in speech, the tells in body language, the significance of timing. The details overlooked by emotional reactors become your tactical advantage. You become a quiet strategist in every exchange, moving with purpose while others respond on impulse. Analytical empathy constructs a calm dominance. While others are buffeted by emotion, you operate with lucidity. You anticipate moves, evade traps, and seize openings with minimal exposure. You aren't merely responsive. You are proactive, shaping interactions to your benefit without being overt. Others may feel in control, but in truth, you are guiding the trajectory with subtle, invisible influence. This principle transforms perception into leverage. Your comprehension is your tool, your patience is your defense, and your strategic application becomes unstoppable. Master it, and you no longer meet human behavior with frustration. Instead, you see it as a system predictable, navigable, and ultimately conquerable. Principle 4. Forge sovereign psychology. Most individuals exist as subjects of their own emotions, swayed by external forces, tossed about by praise, criticism, or circumstance. Their inner world is a fragile construct, dependent on the validation of others, and because of this, they can be controlled, influenced, and destabilized without ever realizing the mechanism. The bedrock of formidable intellect is building a mind that answers only to itself. This is the psychology of sovereignty and internal kingdom, governed by reason, clarity, and unshakable self-command. Sovereign psychology starts with absolute ownership. You must accept complete responsibility for your thoughts, your emotional responses, and your actions. External events may trigger sensations, but they cannot dictate your judgment unless you permit it. A sovereign mind does not react on impulse. It does not seek constant reassurance from outside voices. Praise, recognition, and social validation are treated as data points, not fuel for your identity. Criticism is examined with objectivity, without allowing it to distort your soul. Every external influence passes through the filter of your own logic and core principles. Emotions are not the enemy, but unmanaged emotions are a critical weakness. A sovereign mind observes feelings without surrendering to them. Anger becomes a source of strategic insight. Fear becomes useful data, and desire becomes a compass for direction. The disciplined observer never mistakes a reaction for an action. While others lash out, withdraw, or overcompensate, you navigate the scenario with calm efficiency. Your internal state becomes a stable platform from which all decisions are made, not a storm that determines your path. The ancient strategist put it plainly: to be obeyed, one must first know how to command oneself. Commanding yourself is the prerequisite for commanding any environment. When your mind is sovereign, manipulation loses its potency. Attempts to provoke, intimidate, or sway, you are neutralized because your core remains unassailable. A sovereign individual is akin to a citadel. The walls may be visible, but the gates are controlled solely by the ruler within. No external voice or event dictates the movements inside. Building this sovereignty demands rigorous honesty. You must identify every area where you seek approval, where insecurity dictates your behavior, where fear blocks decisive action. Each concession to external pressure erodes your internal authority. Every decision made from principle, rather than a need for validation, reinforces your independence. Over time, this forges a psychological immunity to coercion, gossip, and deceit. Sovereign psychology also amplifies resilience. Failures are reframed as lessons. Setbacks become feedback. Opposition is analyzed as a challenge, not internalized as a verdict. Your mental landscape is no longer a battleground. It is a command center. You can see clearly where to advance, where to withdraw, and where to hold your ground. Your energy is conserved for strategic maneuvers, not dissipated in emotional turbulence. To strengthen this, write this in the comments. I am my own authority. Internalize this statement daily, especially as external pressures mount. Feel the command in those words and let them govern your choices. A sovereign mind is formidable to others precisely because it cannot be manipulated, distracted, or broken. It becomes the anchor in chaos, the calm within the storm, the engine of decisive action. Sovereign psychology isn't about isolation, it's about mastery. It ensures your decisions are guided by clarity, strategy, and self-trust, not by the shifting whims of people whose objectives don't align with yours. From this state, you operate from a power that is internal, sustainable, and ultimately unstoppable. Principle 5. Let action be your argument. Anyone can make promises, give advice, or construct elaborate justifications. Most people inhabit the realm of talk-endlessly explaining, rationalizing, and debating their intentions. But explanation is fragile. Action is irrefutable. Execution is the true dialect of power. Results are the only proof that your intelligence is more than theory. It is applied force. In an era obsessed with image, your deeds forged your reputation, your credibility, and your leverage. This principle demands a fundamental shift. Stop announcing what you will do and begin doing it. Every plan, strategy, or idea has only two possible states: realized or unrealized. Discussing a result without creating it yields nothing. Action transmutes potential into fact. Every completed task, every solved problem, every tangible achievement becomes an argument that cannot be countered. Competence is demonstrated. Influence is earned through tangible output, not through rhetoric. An enduring lesson is that people judge far more by sight than by touch. Everyone can see. Few can truly feel. Your actions are what people witness. Your intellect is measured by what is concrete, not by what is hypothesized. Execution, as your argument, also streamlines decision. When you focus on action, endless debate loses its relevance. You no longer waste energy defending opinions, proving concepts, or convincing skeptics. Instead, your energy channels directly into producing measurable outcomes. This makes existence simpler, faster, and vastly more efficient. While others are trapped in cycles of argument, analysis, and hesitation, you are building relentless momentum. Progress itself becomes a barrier that leaves critics behind. Action, as argument, transforms risk into clarity. Words can mislead. Intentions can obfuscate. But actions reveal the underlying truth. When you act, you either succeed or you learn. Both outcomes deliver feedback no conversation can provide. Failures are invaluable. They expose weaknesses, gaps, and successes are undeniable. They cement credibility, authority, and influence. This principle forces you to embrace radical responsibility. Your results are the only domain you completely control. Others may talk, speculate, or judge, but your execution is your sovereign territory, independent of opinion. This rule also shatters the illusion of busyness. Many confuse activity with accomplishment. Meetings, messages, plans, and discussions create a sensation of progress, but they rarely produce definitive results. Ruthless sharpness distinguishes between noise and signal. Action, as argument, insists that your time, focus, and effort are only valuable when they generate real-world impact. Everything else is secondary. Furthermore, this principle generates compounding momentum in life. Success breeds influence, and influence accelerates opportunity. The person who acts consistently creates a gravitational field that pulls in resources, allies, and advantages. In contrast, words alone attract nothing but doubt. When your actions are in perfect alignment with your aims, you become a living testament to applied intelligence. People watch, they learn, and they follow, because results speak with a voice that drowns out everything else. Action, as argument, is ruthless because it eliminates ego-driven debate. Criticism, gossip, or skepticism are irrelevant to a person who produces. You cease wasting energy trying to prove yourself verbally. Instead, you allow reality to prove your capability, your insight, and your discipline. This principle cultivates confidence, efficiency, and undeniable authority. Another pointed observation. A promise was a necessity of the past. A broken word is a necessity of the present. In essence, don't cling to promises if action demands a more effective path. Let results, not rhetoric, dictate your credibility. When you fully internalize this law, your life transforms. You become the individual whose presence alone signals capability. Your reputation is built on outcomes. Your influence is earned through deeds, and your intelligence is demonstrated through relentless execution. Principle 6. Execute the calculated end. Most people are sentimental. They cling to elements long past their utility relationships, projects, habits, or identities, because release feels like loss or failure. The past exerts a powerful pull, and human nature makes it excruciatingly difficult to sever attachments. Even when it's glaringly obvious, they are hindering progress. Ruthless intelligence recognizes that emotional attachment is the silent assassin of forward motion. To operate with clarity and power, you must learn to conclusively terminate what no longer serves your core objectives. The calculated end is about assessing all situations with a detached, logical lens. Every endeavor, every commitment, every interaction has a light. Not all beginnings lead to fruitful middles, and not all middles deserve prolonged investment. A formidably sharp person evaluates the cost-benefit equation with precision. Is this effort propelling you toward your goal, or is it draining your resources? Is this alliance still aligned with your values, or is it consuming more than it contributes? Can this project realistically deliver the required result, or is it a diversion disguised as progress? Answering these questions with brutal honesty allows you to administer endings decisively, without hesitation or lingering regret. Ending something is not synonymous with failure. It is a hallmark of intelligence. It is a demonstration of control over your own trajectory and a refusal to be held hostage by past choices. It demands courage, because most equate closure with defeat. But the truth is, failing to end what no longer functions guarantees a far greater loss in wasted time, energy, and potential. This principle commands that you treat your commitments as strategic assets. If an asset depreciates beyond recovery, you liquidate it. You do not hold on out of nostalgia, guilt, or fear of judgment. You act strategically, prioritizing outcomes over sentiment. The calculated end also applies to identity itself. Who you were yesterday does not dictate who you must be today. Habits, beliefs, and routines that once served you may now be obsolete. Ruthless intelligence permits you to shed outdated versions of yourself. This isn't a rejection of your past. It's the conscious embrace of evolution. Every decision to end something is an investment in a more potent, sharper future. It liberates mental bandwidth, energy, and focus for what genuinely matters now. This law teaches the critical power of timing. There exists a precise moment to conclude, and acting too early or too late diminishes the effectiveness of the move. Ending prematurely may sacrifice unrealized potential. Ending too late wastes invaluable resources. The sharp individual cultivates the awareness to recognize that optimal moment. Observation, experience, and disciplined reflection create the capacity to act with finality. Once the decision is made, you do not waver. Hesitation undermines the very intelligence you've worked to build. It was once said that whoever desires constant success must change their conduct with the times. Adaptation necessitates ending patterns that no longer yield results. To cling to the familiar is to invite obsolescence. To embrace the calculated end is to harness flexibility without chaos, discipline without rigidity, and clarity without emotional fog. The calculated end is a shield against decay. It protects your mission, your energy, and your direction. It separates the useful from the burdensome, the productive from the distracting, the essential from the trivial. By mastering this, you ensure your life flows toward results, not stagnation. You are no longer chained to past choices. You act in alignment with present realities, and future ambitions. Put this in the comments. End. What obstructs me? Principle 7. Cultivate unbreakable focus. Intelligence, however acute, is squandered when scattered across endless targets. The modern environment is engineered for distraction. Every moment is an invitation to fragment your attention. News, opinions, opportunities, people, and obligations perpetually compete for your mental energy. Most individuals respond like debris in a current, shifting with every ripple, never building momentum, never achieving depth. Ruthless intelligence rejects this entirely. It demands single-minded concentration on the one objective that matters most, the singular goal that defines your entire trajectory. Unbreakable focus begins with crystalline clarity. You must identify your one priority, the result that, if achieved, makes all other pursuits either easier or irrelevant. This is not multitasking. This is prioritization distilled into obsession. All decisions, interactions, and investments are filtered through this lens. Every yes is deliberate. Every no is a strategic act. A person governed by this principle understands that attention is your supreme currency, and where it flows dictates what manifests in your reality. Discipline is the engine of this law. Focus demands saying no to attractive distractions, to good opportunities that aren't great, and to minor emergencies that don't serve the central mission. It means disregarding both praise and criticism when they pull you off course. It requires resistance to the social pressure of being everywhere, doing everything, pleasing everyone. In practicing unbreakable focus, you forge a mental laser capable of cutting through complexity, filtering out noise, and producing results that scattered individuals cannot comprehend. The power here lies not just in action, but in the immunity it creates. When your attention is locked onto your core objective, manipulation becomes difficult. Others cannot sway you with drama, gossip, or enticing diversions. Your mental state becomes a fortress. Your actions become precise and inevitable. Challenges are assessed against one ruthless question: does this move me toward my one thing? If not, it is discarded without a second thought. This generates a speed, momentum, and clarity others cannot replicate, a quiet yet undeniable dominance in any arena. Unbreakable focus is also cumulative. Each day of concentrated attention compounds into outcomes far greater than scattered effort ever could. The distractions that derail others merely widen your advantage. While others dabble in many arenas, you drill deep into one, creating mastery, influence, and results that seem effortless, but are built on relentless concentration. The results themselves then reinforce your focus, creating a powerful feedback loop of momentum that makes deviation increasingly costly. It's a double victory to outmaneuver A mind with unbreakable focus does exactly that. It moves unseen, uninterrupted, and unstoppable toward its target. You aren't swayed by appearances, trends, or the whims of others. You aren't seduced by novelty or idle chatter. Your commitment to your primary objective is absolute, a magnet that aligns resources, energy, and people toward your vision. This principle also requires profound patience. Focused intelligence does not rush. It maintains endurance over the long term, weathering setbacks and resisting the siren call of instant gratification. Small, consistent steps taken with precision accumulate into an insurmountable advantage. Your life becomes a singular force, arrow loosed with intention, unstoppable once in flight. Finally, focus is protective. It safeguards your energy, your decisions, and your results. It prevents the dilution of your intellect into meaningless engagements. By mastering unbreakable focus, you ensure your time, energy, and actions are expended only where they matter most. You create a trajectory that is formidable, deliberate, and impossible to divert. The timeless lesson is that to succeed, one must adapt and concentrate. Your intelligence becomes a weapon precise and unstoppable. Your life becomes your creation, coherent and purposeful. Put this final statement in the comments. I focus. Therefore, I conquer. These 7 principles are not mere habits or quick tricks. They are an operating system for your mind, a framework for an intellect that is deliberate, formidable, and unshakable. They are the lens through which you will view every interaction, every challenge, every opportunity. They are the architecture of a life that cannot be manipulated, derailed, or diminished by the chaos surrounding you. Strategic opacity, narrative command, analytical empathy, sovereign psychology, action as argument, the calculated end, and unbreakable focus. These are the pillars of applied power. Do not attempt to master them all simultaneously. That is the path of frustration. Begin with the principle that resonates most deeply with the friction you currently experience. Apply it with total commitment for 30 days. Observe what changes. Observe how people respond differently to you. Notice the shift in your clarity, in your decision-making, and in the tangible outcomes you create. One principle mastered becomes a catalyst for the others. Momentum builds, your confidence solidifies, your intellect honed by disciplined action becomes visible, undeniable, and respected. This isn't about becoming cruel or deceptive. It is the opposite. It's about becoming so strategically sound, so mentally anchored, so self-possessed that no external force can easily move you. The world will endlessly test you with deception, distraction, and drama. People will attempt to influence you through fear, approval, or conflict. The unprepared respond emotionally. The sharp respond with calculation. You become untouchable because you are anchored in your own code, your own standards, your own measurable results. Every choice you now make is a declaration. Will no longer be reactive. I will no longer surrender my power through overexposure or misguided empathy. I will no longer be swayed by criticism, praise, or short-term temptations. I will act. I will calculate. I will focus. I will end what no longer serves and double down on what truly matters. I will engineer a life on my own terms, trajectory that builds enduring strength, authentic influence, and undeniable results. So start today. Choose one principle. Practice it relentlessly. Track your progress. Measure your outcomes. Then move to the next. Layer by layer, principle by principle, your mind transforms into a citadel. Your actions become precise. Your results become inevitable. The chaos of the world, the maneuvers of the insecure, the traps of near-term thinking, none of it can touch you. You are a force of strategic nature, governed by your own code, advancing toward your objectives with clarity, purpose, and undeniable power. Before you go, if this resonated, use it. Hit like right now, and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more frameworks that turn insight into advantage. And drop this final affirmation in the comments. I am strategically unstoppable.